Hi, I'm Alan Ross, and we are at Distributech 2025. We've got interviews with thought leaders, and we'd love for you to see what we've done here. Hey, thanks for joining us. So my next guest, John, we've done this before.
Yeah, we have.
Talk about the industry.
Yes.
You are the VP of Sales and Marketing or Business Development for G&W.
Just the global VP of Marketing for G&W Electric.
Well, that's even better.
Yeah.
You global. I'll take sales away.
Yeah.
Global.
I'll take the global. Forget the sales.
Were you doing that a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this industry, and if you're marketing, you have to look at what you do, look at the industry. And then somehow place G&W where the market is. We've had more change in this industry in the last 5 to 10 years than we've had in the 50 to 100 years before it.
Yeah, we definitely feel that.
A lot of the changes, even since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
Things have changed. You come to this show and you see things are different.
Yeah. So a lot of what you're seeing is there is a evolutionary change in technology that's happening, and some of these are technological changes that are just impacting the utility industry specifically, but some of these are technological advancements that are kind of impacting humankind, right? So I'm thinking like AI and things like that.
Yeah.
And these are beginning to have impacts on our utility industry, and a lot more conversation about it. There's a lot of ideas about how to utilize these new technologies. And what we're seeing beginning to advance in a really significant way, in a really exciting way, is that customers are more than just talking about this stuff. They're also really interested in, hey, how can we work together on a project? Like, I've got this particular problem. Hey, G&W, can you step in and help us solve that? They're more interested in doing pilots and installing prototypes. And these are things that 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, that was a pretty difficult button to push. But today, people seem to be much more open to trying new stuff, putting new technologies out on the grid, seeing how it performs, and working with you if it's not quite perfect. You still have portions of the industry that are conservative and act the way that they did maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago or even further. But a bigger portion of the industry is willing to try new stuff, and they need to be perfectly honest.
You said evolution of technology. I love that. I'm stealing that.
Okay.
I really love that. The evolution, because there is a revolution that can happen, and maybe that's AI, and an evolution that's going to happen.
Yeah.
That it's just, and another thing you said, and I want to talk about this, today, this industry has been very insular. Power companies are very insular. They like me too. Well, they did that. I'll go ahead and do it. But now you see them not being as insular and being much more collaborative.
Yeah.
Here's our problem. Here's the outcome we want. Come in and help us design the solution.
Yeah.
Right. Whether that's equipment, technology, or whatever you design the solution. That has been, to me, the sea change that's taking place in the industry. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As a result of that, that means that your people have to change how because you've really not been in that environment, or where they welcome you in and they're saying, help us do this.
Right.
It's like, well, wait, no, we were just used to have you buy our stuff.
Yeah.
That's not what you're asking anymore.
That's right.
It puts responsibility on the supplier.
There's definitely more, there's added responsibility really on both sides. But this change that you're speaking about, this collaboration, more partnerships, not just amongst manufacturers trying to put unique solutions together, but partnerships between manufacturers and customers to come up with ideas. So, what we're seeing in this grid transformation or grid modernization, whatever term you want to use, if you take a step back and really look at all the mega trends that are impacting utilities, there's so much opportunity for innovation. And it's so overwhelming that there is no single company out there that could ever get their hands around it or could really meaningfully impact all the technologies and all the innovations that are needed to transform the grid. So you got to be picky. You got to be choosy. And how you do that is, in my opinion, the best way to do it is to be very customer-centric with your R&D. So and this is where the partnership and the collaboration comes from. So if you're a company like G&W Electric, we've been serving the utility market since we opened our doors in 1905. So we already have deep relationships, long-standing relationships with utilities all around the country. And that gives us an easier access to be able to reach across the table and say, okay, what problems are you having? Let's work together to be able to solve those problems. But what it's changing is it's an approach of trying to sell something versus sitting back and listening. Right. You got to listen first. And you have to understand the problems that the utilities are having. And one of the things that I'm finding when I do that with our customers is I oftentimes don't even know what they're talking about. Right? I'm like, what are you talking about? So what that really is an indication of is that the problems that utilities are facing are unprecedented.
Yeah.
Right? And it just doubles down on the fact that there is no one company that can understand or solve all these issues. But what it means for companies like G&W Electric is that we need to hire people we've never had to hire before.
Right.
We need to add knowledge within our organization that we never needed before, just to be able to have these conversations with customers so that we can understand their problems and then figure out, do we have something to add to this? And that's really the second part, like listening and then being very choiceful as a manufacturer. Like, can I really add something to this problem, to this situation? Can I come up with something that really solves that problem? And solving it is one thing, that's great, but we need to scale it, because if one customer has that problem, it's likely industry-wide, and we want to create solutions that impact as much of the industry as we can. We have to build this with quality, because our stuff doesn't get installed and then gets ripped out in a year or two. The stuff's there for decades, right? And the last part, which oftentimes gets left out, is we need to be able to do this affordably. And frankly, a lot of manufacturers don't like talking about that, but there's so much transformation and so much innovation that has to be installed onto the grid that if it's not done affordably, at least with the thought that you need to allow these utilities to build really good ROIs and business cases, it's going to be very difficult for us to navigate this transition. It's just going to be too expensive.
Right.
All right. So lots change.
And you got 50 different states deciding what you can get, and you can only there's a lot going. The scale part of this. I don't think I think this event and others like it are getting people. I hear the word, we've got to be able to scale. We've got to be able to scale.
Yeah.
Because you get 8% load growth from Southern Company, right?
Okay.
20 years they had no growth.
Yeah.
Now they have 8% load growth.
Yeah.
Now, they were very fortunate. They were able to put a nuclear plant in operation in West Georgia.
Yeah.
Where they already had to.
Yeah.
It's already sold out. They're not solving. And if you can't fix the problem with a nuclear plant, you got a big problem.
Yeah, you do.
But to them, scaling is, we've got to go faster, further than we've ever done before.
That's right.
And the affordability part, I see solutions that are just not tenable. They're saying you're asking them to spend money that, number one, they will not get permission to
That's
from
right.
corporate people.
Yeah, that's right.
And number two, you're not relying on what's already there. Talk a little bit about that, because we're not throwing everything away.
No,
starting over,
and you can't.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we know that we need, so, for most people know G&W Electric and many suppliers, to be honest, as equipment suppliers.
Right.
We make a thing, right? That's assembled and you ship it out. It's a physical thing, right? So, but the solutions in the future are you need to expand the capabilities of those things. And by expanding the capability of a traditional switch or a recloser, by adding sensing and advanced communications and analytics to it, you create a device that's much more powerful than what the base unit's capabilities were. So that's one way that you can build affordability into the solution, by allowing it to do a lot more needed things on the grid.
Yeah.
But your point about you're not going to just throw everything out that's there, what really drives is the need to create solutions that allow for retrofits.
Yep.
Right? And so if you think about, just walk around the exhibition here, there's manufacturers that have been supplying pad mount gear, reclosers, cap switches. I mean, all the basic stuff that you need to operate a distribution system, that stuff's been around for decades.
Right.
And some of that equipment's going to be around for decades more. But we need to add intelligence to those devices. We need to be able to add communications to those devices. We need to be able to analyze the data that's coming off of that equipment and extract meaningful insights. You need to be able to do that with that existing equipment there, and do so in such a way that, doesn't disrupt the utilities operations, doesn't necessarily require an outage, doesn't require you to bring the unit down and do a bunch of surgery to it. Like, these are real. That's what I mean by finding a problem that utility and manufacturer can work together and solve. And one of those problems that we hear a lot about is, how do I improve the capability of existing assets?
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but I hear more and more, and you just alluded to it in the way, they don't want to buy the thing anymore. They want to buy whatever that thing is. What outcome can it bring me?
Yeah.
I want outcomes. I don't want process. I don't want things. And then I got to figure out what the outcome is. Because if I do that, if I just buy a thing for you, you're going to think I want the lowest cost.
Yeah.
You think I'm competing on the lowest cost. If I come and say, help me figure out what I need to get as an outcome, you figure it out and tell me what it is that whether that is a retrofit or whether that is a new piece of equipment. I'm much more open to working with a company. That's the key of collaboration.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what I need. I'm not hiding that. I'm just saying, hey, what's your price for it? What's his price?
Yeah.
I see more and more, as you said, there's so much more where people are, they'll try something. That is not this industry.
No.
It's like, hey, I need to try this and be guaranteed it's going to work.
Yeah.
Like, I can't guarantee you that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But you also said, like, kind of the foundation of what you're talking about there is it starts by listening first.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? What actually is the problem that you're trying to solve? Many of us, especially for people in marketing, certainly people in sales, we're there to, sell. Right. Get your message out there, get your brand out there. And it definitely requires a different mentality and a different approach to just say, okay, for a lot of meetings, it's like you kind of know what we make and what we're known for. We're here to talk about what problems you have and how we might be able to help, and just sit back and just listen.
Yeah.
Right. And, there's many times in those conversations where there isn't anything that we can do. The problem that they have is like, I don't really have a core competency in that. I really can't do anything to help you with that. And you're actually doing the customer a favor by just saying that. Yeah. Like, you know what? That's not really something I'm going to be able to provide a lot of value to you, and maybe move on to the next problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's address the last part of the scale.
Yeah.
It's moving much faster than it has been. The demand curves out there. If we truly are going to electrify everything, if we truly are going to decarbonize, and I know there's a glitch now politically in the U.S. but that is a temporary glitch.
Yeah.
Because
the momentum is there.
It's there, and it's bigger than any one political.
That's correct.
Could do.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere.
Right. It's global.
G&W is a global company.
Yep.
And so, are there places where you love where they are, you love where they're working? Is it the Middle East and Northern Africa? Is it Europe? Is it North America? Who's doing the best job at getting to scale?
Oh, the conversation.
We won't tell them other than the fact we'll publish this and they can find out.
No, it's like, it's the conversations are very similar all around the world.
Right.
Certain areas of the world push certain issues or problems more than others. It's not really a question of like, where do I like it the most? It's really, so my role is global. So I go all over the planet to try and get a sense of how these things are advancing in different parts of the world. And the conversation is a little bit different depending on where you are in the world. So it's not really about which place I like more or another. It's really more about what insights I'm getting depending on where I am in the world. So like if you talk about Europe, for example, like in my opinion, Europe tends to be much more progressive on the decarbonization front. Right. And from a technological point of view, a lot of great technology is coming out to, get rid of SF6. There's a greater push for renewables and energy storage. And, so there's a whole ecosystem there where it's easier to have those types of conversations, right? If you go to places, like in the United States or Canada, the conversations tend to be, frankly, a lot more practical.
Okay, yeah.
And you might actually get to the point where instead of maybe a more philosophical conversation about where the grid is going, it's like, no, I have this problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Like, talk to me about this.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation that we're very comfortable having too. But even going out into Asia, I mean, we have a factory in that part of the world. We support many customers in that part of the world. And there's so many countries that the conversation is literally different depending on which country that you go to. So it's, in my role, it's trying to take the insights from all parts of the world. And that actually helps inform future conversations regardless of where I'm at. Like one of the conversations, I'll give you an example. So I would say your European Union countries are not only more progressive on the concept of SF6 regulation, but they're now extending into other types of chemicals or materials that are used in the manufacture of our products.
Yeah.
All products in the industry, not just G&W, all products. And I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, you take that little bit of insight and I'll go to a different part of the world. Like, what do you guys think about this? You go to another part of the world. What do you guys think about this? And all of a sudden you start getting a sense of how this issue is playing out globally. And then you get to see the trends of like, North America doesn't really care too much about that, but Japan's really catching on. And it's kind of fun to see how all that plays out.
That's excellent. What is the future? Because you just said, how do you look at the future and see where things are going?
Yeah.
Talk a little. We've seen the changes that are here now. Extrapolate for me. Where do you think we're going to be in 5 to 10 years? What's happening that may not, if it's just more of the same, but doing it faster, better, cheaper, that's not a new problem. Well, where are we going to go in future?
Yeah. So I see this really as it's kind of two tracks. So there's a lot of utilities. If we just want to talk about, we could talk about this globally. I mean, there's a lot of utilities that still, we'd be blown away by how many electromechanical relays they're still installed.
Oh, I wouldn't either. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so we don't even have like microprocessor-based protection in a lot of the substations in this country, let alone globally, right? So, we're still dealing with a lot of basic fundamentals to just improve protection and control, just enabling SCADA. I mean, there's still a number of devices that my company is shipping out that are isolated and have no communications to them whatsoever. So these are basic things that you're going to continue to see accelerate and grow over time. But this is just more of the same, right? But layered on top of that, you're going to start seeing more advanced technologies, things like smart sensors, things like advanced communications that are built on like a fiber optic network. And what you do with that data is really where the magic is going to happen. And if you can develop algorithms and you can make that data accessible to those algorithms and you can start extracting meaningful insights from that data, you can really transform the efficiency of how the grid operates. You can start enabling applications that were kind of a pipe dream even a few years ago, things like truly managing your assets and understanding what their condition is and predict maintenance cycles and predict end of life. And now you can really get into scenarios where using technology and innovation, using data and advanced analytics to really begin to impact reliability and resiliency numbers. That is on top of the basic fundamentals that's just going to keep growing and accelerating over time. But those are step changes that even a couple of years ago, no one was really talking about. Right? So it's both.
Yeah. I love that because I think we're not paying enough attention to fixing what's there. Electromechanical relays, you got breakers that are not going to be there. The whole SF6 world is changing.
Yes.
And there's not enough just fixing what's there. You mentioned something when you said they don't want to just buy your thing. They need the thing to be much more effective at solving whatever problem.
Yeah.
Tell me about G&W. What are you doing to do that? And I'm going to find out a lot more tomorrow because I'm going to be doing a showcase with you. But talk a little bit about what G&W is doing that meets the needs of the future.
Yeah, so we understand the concept of scale, we understand the concept of quality, and we understand the concept of affordability. In terms of scaling, there's a lot of investments in production and capacity to just continue to fuel this transformation that we have going on. Quality, I mean, the products are designed to last decades, and they always have been, and they always will. That affordability piece is kind of what I want to touch on a little bit here. And a lot of the products that we manufacture are designed to be modular in such a way where I can use parts and pieces from different products and put them together potentially in a new way and solve a new problem with familiar components. Why is that important? Well, from one aspect, utilities may be very familiar with all those different components. And so they have a sense of security that, okay, I understand how all that works and I'm familiar with all those parts and pieces. So I have confidence that it's going to work. That's important to a utility. You can control a lot of the affordability question that way because you're not constantly redesigning new stuff or developing new stuff. So if you take, for example, one of our core products is the Viper recloser. Everybody knows what a recloser is. There's lots of people that make reclosers. But you can use reclosers in different ways. There's smart sensors that you can add to them. Now, all of a sudden, that recloser has the ability not only to provide protection against temporary faults, but now you might be able to do some metering applications with it or do some power quality monitoring. If you've got a particular area that's got some power quality issues, you're expanding the capability of that device well beyond just a simple, interrupting device. And now if you start pairing that with, the ability to communicate at high speeds back to a centralized location, and now you start taking that data and doing some advanced analytics with it, now you're doing a lot more than just monitoring what's going on out there. Now you can actually start delivering meaningful insights to impact how the grid is operated. So it's just a recloser. Right?
You start with a recloser.
It's just a recloser.
And that you come back.
Everybody knows what those things do, but we're taking these very modular components that we can put on lots of different devices and greatly expand the operating envelope of a very familiar piece of equipment to utility engineers. That's just one example.
It's the smart recloser. I don't know what you guys call it, Viper.
We call it the Viper.
Viper.
Yeah.
But that solves two problems. That brings data, that brings information and for the future, but it is solving a current problem because they probably are just, I got money to solve this problem, spend a little bit more, and I actually start to create my new future.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly the idea.
I'm looking forward to doing our showcase tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'll be there waiting for you.
John, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.